Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In my yesterday's video, I was making you stop for a moment and take a little break from all this constant bombardment with the news, real or fake. That's another story, right? With the images we are bombarded with the stories we are bombarded with. And that video has been received really well by so many of you, and that just proved to me that my intuition was right, because I felt like we all need those kind of reminders much more often. So I will commit to bringing you not just the news, but I will commit to bring to you those kind of videos that will balance your energy, remind you of what is important. And that's why I am so glad that you left many comments, that you appreciated that video. Thank you, by the way, for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it as well. And today, in a soft way, because we're not gonna freak out about all of it, any of it. That's what they want us to do. I will just scroll through some news that I have chosen, that I have picked up to present to you. And let's always remind ourselves, whatever we are watching or observing, we acknowledge it, but we don't want to give too much energy and attention to it. So briefly, let's start with Erika Kirk, because there is a video circulating around internet, and that is a documentary from 2014. Let me actually find it, guys, in which you will see secret CIA-linked documentary of her briefing officials on grid-wiping EMP attacks. Black Start CIA director, so this is the name of the documentary, Black Start CIA director James Woolsey on EMP attacks that could black out the US grid. And you're going to see Erika Kirk in it. How interesting, right? So let's start with this. This is very short, less than a minute. Everything is a show, isn't it? Let's take a look and listen what she had to say 12 years ago.
Parties unknown used AK-47s to attack the transformers of that facility.
A former energy official claims an attack on an American power grid was terrorism.
The Metcalf attack pointed out that the substations are important parts of our national grid, but they're completely unprotected.
We have 5 major threats that make our grid extremely vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures in the United States: food, water, transportation, communications, etc. All 17 of the others depend on electricity.
Interesting, right? So you might wonder, who is this girl? Who is this woman? Well, she's definitely not who she portrays herself to be. So now let's take a listen to perhaps one, if not the main one, of her mentors.
I want to taper off the military aid within the next 10 years.
That would be a very dramatic shift.
We kept, as you say, American military support to the tune of $3.8 billion a year. Much appreciated. So now in my visit with President Trump, I said, we very deeply appreciate the military aid that America has given us over the years, but here too we've come of age and we've developed incredible capacities. And in our economy, which will soon reach, certainly within a decade, it'll reach about $1 trillion. It's not a huge economy, but it's not a small economy. So I want to taper off the military aid within the next 10 years. That's not saying that I don't want to fight for the allegiance and support of the American people. I do. You have to be crazy not to. And it's something deep. It's not.
You want to taper it off to zero within 10 years?
Yes.
That would be a very dramatic shift.
Well, it's in the works.
So we might wonder, why is that plan in his mind or whoever else's mind in 10 years? So what year are we going to have in 10 years, everyone? 2036. How is the new great Israel doing in 2036? What do you think? Perhaps this is all really making sense again. So now let's go to the map before we hear a few words from Trump. Let's go to the map, everyone. Of course, all of us know this map, but we have to look at it again. What do you see here? Let's zoom out. United States, Canada, and Alaska. As we all know, Alaska is part of the United States, is a state that belongs to the United States. And what is right here? What is right here? What country is right here? Do you know? Put in the comments down below. What country is right here? I think it's so obvious. We don't really even have to say the name of this country, but put in the comments down below. So we have the US right here and the other country right here. All right, so now let's take a listen to a few words from President Trump.
And separately, Mr. President, I'm curious in terms of the future of Venezuela. Do you see Venezuela, now led by Delcy Rodriguez, as an ally of the U.S.? Is that the way that you view that country
Well,
right
right now they seem to be an ally, and I think it'll continue to be an ally. And we don't want to have Russia there. We don't want to have China there. And by the way, we don't want Russia or China going to Greenland, which if we don't take Greenland, you're going to have Russia or China as your next door neighbor. That's not going to happen.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't mute myself. I forgot. But why this is an issue on the south to be a neighbor when you already have Russia as a neighbor next to Alaska? I don't know. Am I just not processing something here? Please let me know. Let me know, because it's very confusing. Russia is already a neighbor. And actually, I think, let's be realistic, if you really have any conflicts with any country, I'm not saying he does as far as Russia goes, no. Because you know what I think. I think it's all Chabad-Lubavitch approved. But if there is any conflict, let's say between Russia and the United States, the easiest way to solve it, the most efficient way as far as economically, if you don't want to lose money, is just to do it on this in this space right there, you know, Alaska, a little bit sea, and then welcome to Russia. But that's not why the conflicts exist, because you have to make profit and you have to do some sacrifice, right? That's a different story. But during that meeting that took place at the White House, do you know that Tucker Carlson was there as well? And I was wondering, let me actually play this video for you. I don't have to mute myself. Let me just take you there. I was wondering, why do you think he was there? Was he there as a journalist reporting on the news, or I don't know? Because I think lately he is not happy, at least it looks like he's not happy with certain decisions that Trump is making and Trump administration is executing. So do you think Candace Owens will be there next? I don't know, because clearly Tucker was present. So let's play it again, because maybe you haven't seen it. Right here, he's standing. Let me know your thoughts. It's all confusing, isn't it? It's like we are all watching this political theater going on. And as far as the topic of that meeting goes, that Trump had yesterday at the White House, here you're going to see from Exxon CEO, few words from him, since we are on the topic of oil and money.
Philosophy that ExxonMobil has when we enter countries, because we do business all around the world in a number of different regimes. We take a very long-term perspective. The investments that we make span decades and decades, so we do not go into any opportunity with a short-term mindset. And there's a value proposition that we have to meet. It has to be a win-win-win proposition. Obviously, it has to be a win for the company and our shareholders and to generate a return for the investments that we make. It has to be a win for the government. The resources are an important source of revenue that help support the people of the places that we do business. And it has to be a win for the people. We have to be wanted there and to be a good neighbor. And those three things ensure a stable long-term platform for the large investments that we make for the long term. With respect to Venezuela in particular, we have a very long history in Venezuela. In fact, we first got into Venezuela back in 1940s. We've had our assets seized there twice. And so you can imagine to re-enter a third time would require some pretty significant changes from what we've historically seen here and what is currently the state. If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable. And so significant changes have to be made to those commercial frameworks, the legal system. There has to be durable investment protections, and there has to be a change to the hydrocarbon laws in the country. We're confident that with this administration and President Trump working hand in hand with the Venezuelan government, that those changes can be put in place. I'll just share a philosophy that ExxonMobil has when we enter.
So did he say that Venezuela is uninvestable? I don't know. I don't think I'm getting what's really going on, right? What's going on, guys? So is it because of oil or is not? Let me know. On the note of deals, let me take you to something that is stirring up the tension and the protest, not just in France, but also in Poland. What I'm talking about, and I will read this to you because, of course, I don't know all of this by heart, and that is EU-Mercosur trade agreement. So what is this? It's a quick reminder. As of January this year, 2026, the EU-Mercosur trade agreement is a landmark free trade deal between the European Union and the Mercosur trade bloc, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Following 25 years of negotiations, a broad majority of EU member states formally greenlighted the signature of the deal on January 9th, that was yesterday, 2026. It is set to create one of the world's largest free trade areas, covering a market of over 700 million consumers. I'm going to read more from this, but I want to say a few things. The countries that were opposing it was Poland, Hungary, Austria, Ireland, France, and I think Belgium didn't really put the vote against, I believe. Anyway, you've seen the protests in France as well. Now we have protests in other countries too, and of course we have protests in Poland. This is very important because this is going to pretty much destroy the farmers in Poland and not only destroy their produce and their labor, but also the quality of the food, especially the meat that will be coming from those regions. The transportation is going to take really long time. So let's just put in short words, in simple words. This is not going to be good for the consumers at all, not healthy at all. And it's really all about the money. When you look at it, there is one more aspect of it I want to address after I read this to you, and I show you what took place in Poland with President of Poland as well. So the key components of this deal: tariff elimination. The deal will eventually remove import tariffs on more than 90% of products. EU exports. Mercosur will eliminate duties on 91% of EU goods, including cars, currently 35%. That's why Germany, by the way, was for it, okay? That is the reason. That is actually the reason, because of their car production. Machinery 20% and chemicals 18%. Mercosur exports. The EU will remove duties on 92% of Mercosur exports over 10 years. This is not good deal. Let's just put it again in the simple words. And I was thinking the reasoning for it, besides the aspect, like, for example, that Germans' cars will have some benefits from this deal, right? They will be selling cars without all those extra tariffs or whatever is the duties and tax, etc. But I've heard some time ago that a lot of Nazis, you know, those Nazis after World War II, who never really went under any so-called punishment, they pretty much escaped to South America, like Argentina, for example, and many of those countries that are part of the Mercosur group and that deal. When they established their new life in those countries, a lot of them started the farming business, and they actually opened the farms. So I was thinking to myself, if this is the case, and I'm going to read you a few names and few areas where they went, don't you think this would make sense? Because we have von der Leyen, who we know it's not a human breed for sure, who definitely, if she's going to support, she will support those who are of the same so-called bloodline, who have businesses in those regions. Don't you think this will make sense? So what if, even they say, no, this is not true, it's a conspiracy only, that meat that is coming from the South of America is going to come from maybe some of the farms of those ex-Nazi soldiers, officers, dignitaries that escaped. Let's look into a few names. So here we go. Many Nazis and Nazi sympathizers escaped to South America after World War II, where some became farmers or landowners, often as a cover or a way to blend into existing German communities. Notable cases include Josef Mengele, the infamous angel of death, doctor from Auschwitz. Mengele fled to Argentina, then Paraguay, and finally Brazil. So all those countries, actually, Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil, are part of Mercosur. In Brazil, he lived with Hungarian expatriates, sorry if I mispronounce, on a farm they bought. So he lived on the farm, with Mengele owning a half interest. To hide from Nazi hunters, he lived his final years without facing justice and died by drowning in 1979. So let's scroll down a few more. I'm not going to read all of those. We have Heinz Brücher, a botanist and SS officer who raided Soviet seed collections during the war. Brücher moved to Argentina after the war and became a professor of botany. He also worked as a consultant on agriculture matters and was an advisor to UNESCO. Let's go down a little bit more. the Roja Miranda farm in Brazil. And I'm going to read you the story about this farm after we read this. The farmland of a remote part of Brazil was discovered to have a grim Nazi past when swastika-stamped bricks were found. The farm's owner, the Miranda family, were Nazi sympathizers who enslaved dozens of parentless boys, branding them and forcing them into back-breaking labor, all while compelling them to salute pictures of Hitler. I'm going to read you the story about it. So, nevertheless, we have those farmers, right? Farmers from Nazi group. And we have the Mercosur deal. So what is taking place in Poland? We have Polish farmers protesting yesterday. Thousands of Polish farmers went to Warsaw. Just to let you know, guys, because you're not aware of it, maybe, well, it's across Europe, but we have a cold winter. You know, now they are freaking out when there is a -10 or 8 or -12. I remember when I was growing up as a little girl, I remember at night it was -20 or even more than that. So we had cold winters before. Actually, latest winters were pretty mild, to be honest. But this winter, this time now, the last few days has been really cold comparing to previous winters. So in spite of the weather, they went to Warsaw, the capital of Poland, to protest against this Mercosur deal that is going to take place. They went to the presidential palace. They were actually welcomed by Polish president, but as far as the Prime Minister of Poland goes, not really. So here you have the official site from Polish president, and let me read you what took place. This is from yesterday, January 9th. The representatives of the protesting farmers at the President of the Republic of Poland. This is at the Presidential Palace in Warsaw. They have a meeting because Polish president actually is against Mercosur deal. Well, that's how it looks like. At least he's acting like he is. And let me read you this. A meeting of a president of the Republic of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, with representatives of the protesting farmers took place in the presidential palace. Today, protest of farmers in Warsaw is taking place against the European Union Mercosur agreement, which is unfavorable for Polish agriculture. During the meeting with farmers, President Karol Nawrocki assured of full support for Polish farmers and Polish agriculture. The president has clearly said that he does not agree with the agreement with the Mercosur countries, which is harmful to the Polish economy. So the meeting took place. The president appeals to the Polish government, so to Donald Tusk, to take all possible actions to block the harmful Mercosur agreement, which I'm sure the Prime Minister of Poland is not going to do. But on that note, when you look at the countries that were opposing that deal, and that was Poland, Hungary, Austria, Ireland, and France. You remember when there was this information circulating about Trump wanting certain countries to leave the European Union? And among those countries, do you remember what country was mentioned? It was Poland, Hungary, Austria, and I think there were a few more. I forgot who else was there. But isn't it interesting that those countries were actually voting against that deal? Just those countries. So let's go back to the farm, the Nazi farm in Brazil. Here is the story. What took place there? The article is from 2014, I believe, which is the same year that Erika Kirk documentary came out. That's also interesting. Farm's Nazi past still fresh for slave workers. Marcel's Cruzeiro do Sol farm had once been owned by the Rocha Miranda's family, affluent Brazilian industrialists. Beginning in 1939, The Cruzeiro do Sul farm used slave labor in the form of 10-year-old orphan boys to work the land. 3 members of the Miranda's clan were involved with Acao Integralista Brasileira, a fascist organization with direct Nazi ties. The dark but fascinating account uncovered by Professor Sidney Philo is detailed by the BBC Gibis Zoel in the Brazilian ranch where Nazis kept slaves. So let's read what took place there. I found a story of 50 boys aged around 10 years old who had been taken from an orphanage in Rio de Janeiro, says Philo. They were taken in 3 waves. The first group of 10 in 1933. Osvaldo Miranda was given guardianship of the boys and put them to work with each boy identified not by their given name, but by an assigned number. Aloisa da Silva, who's 90 years old and was 19 years old when this article came out, was number 23. From the Daily Mail, quoting him, "Cattle and horses had more of a family tree than I," he said. "I was a slave and a boy without a name. The great landowners saw ideal workers in us, parentless boys. We were put to the back-breaking toil and paid with coins that could be spent only on the farm. It wasn't until I was 16 that I got my first shoes. I was tortured, made to kneel on hard grains of corn for hours on end, beaten. 2 large dogs guarded our barracks." So this was taking place just on one of those farms. Am I surprised? No, I am not. And I'm just asking myself, and I want to ask you guys before I end this video, don't you think that that Mercosur deal has something to do with those farms? Because, I don't know, I find it really interesting that certain countries where those Nazis escaped are those countries actually that are the Mercosur group. Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and there was one more, right? Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Let me know how is it going in your country, because the protests are, of course, not just in Poland and France, but I think in other countries as well, like Belgium, for example. So let me know, how is the situation with farmers? Are they protesting now? Are they going to the capitals of your countries? How is this looking? Because that deal, absolutely shitty deal for everyone. And also, first and foremost, for the consumers, for the people who don't realize now what kind of food and produce and products they will be getting because of the deal. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. If you appreciate the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you choose to support me in another way, the best way is to donate on PayPal, become my Patreon member. That is huge support for me as well. That's monthly. Or you can purchase one of my books, the book number 1. This is Matilda's and Odo's Adventures. It's a lovely story written by me, illustrated by a very talented illustrator, originally from Bulgaria, actually. I'm not sure if she still lives in London, in the UK, but she's very, very gifted artist. The link how to order it, you find down below in the description box. And if you have Instagram, make sure to follow me there. Let me take you there. I promise you on my Instagram, you don't see politics. All you see is really my travels. You can see it's right here, Anya K_44, including my last short getaway to Paris. You can take a look right here. I went to the Museum of Christian Dior. A beautiful exhibition, I have to say. Very, very feminine fashion that we need more nowadays, more than ever. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, lots of love And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. And I see you in another video. Bye, everyone.